the marketing plan, which you see a sample of it. We're going to actually walk through it. And then again, it's a numbers game. I've been in sales for 40 years, and let me tell you, okay, maybe less than that, but a long time. And it's a numbers game. How many people you talk to? Everybody that you know knows somebody that works in some company. The kids' parents at your soccer game. Talk to them. One of them's probably a CEO somewhere, and we don't even know it because we tend to work in circles a little bit differently. But ask them, who do you know? What companies do you know that are currently hiring? Would you mind? I build a business plan, a marketing plan. Would you mind taking I would love your feedback. People respond in kind. No one will say no if you say, I would love your feedback on my marketing plan. So let's talk a little bit. Objectives of networking. What's the objectives? You want to get your name out there. You want to let people know that you are looking for your next career position. You're looking to advance your career, and you're actively looking to connect with people. You want to make sure that you are talking to the right people. Who should I be talking to? Are there key contacts that you're not aware of? Really, the bottom line is the more people you talk to, the more people are actively looking on your behalf, or the more people are actively referring you or helping you connect with the right people. Now, when I first started doing this marketing plan idea, I started to do it over lunch. Hey, Edward, would you like to have lunch with me? Then I thought, oh, that got really expensive. So I started doing coffee instead. So figure out what works for you, but make the time. And by the way, these meetings do not have to be live and in person. You can do these over the phone. You can say, hey, Jennifer, I'd love to run a plan by you. Would you have 15, 20 minutes on your time? Can we do this over the phone? You don't have to do it in person. So even people who are outside the area, especially if you're looking to relocate to Boston or Pennsylvania or someplace, that's a great way to do it. Let me just pause here for any reactions or thoughts or any quick questions, especially from our audience on Zoom. Anything on your?
Yep, there was one on Zoom. The question was, let me make sure I get my wording right. Will this process look different, or where will it differ, if any, for somebody with a 10+ year career break? How can you get back into networking after taking that break?
Yeah, no, it will not have any shift. Here's the thing about career breaks. If you have a career break, and I'll address women for just a second, because some of them, you might have gotten pregnant in your career, might have taken time off. Whatever the reason is, maybe you took time off to take care of an ailing parent, or whatever, or maybe go back to school. Whatever your career break has been, make it your choice. If you say to someone, I chose to take a break in my career to advance my education. I chose, yes, I have a 10-year break in my career. I chose to take that time off to take care of my siblings, to take care of my parents, to raise a family. When it becomes your choice, nobody can question that. And if you're the hiring manager, there's nothing else to follow up with that. But if you try to explain and try to, this happened and then this happened, that is a no-winning proposition, because it sometimes leads to more questions. So figure out, these are the questions you need to know in advance. Figure out what is the reason, and then own it and say, I chose to take time off. Okay. Any other questions? All right, let's keep going. So who to network with? We talked about, everybody knows at least 150 people. I'm talking about people in church. I'm talking about friends on the soccer field with your kids. I'm talking about your neighbors. Some of us don't know what our neighbors do for a living. I couldn't tell you what some of my neighbors do, but if I went out there and talked to them and say, what exactly, who do you work for? I might find out that they've got some very interesting positions and probably have a lot of contacts. Competitors, go, if you've been working for a company or an academic institution or whatever, find out who their competitors are. People love to take talent, from previous companies. They love to do that. Network all the time. This is not something that you do on Mondays from 10 to 12. This is something you do all the time. If you're at the grocery store, you're at Trader Joe's, turn to the person. Some of you, I walked up and say, hey, I'm Nellie Scott. What brought you here today? Have those conversations and say, hey, don't you just love Trader Joe's? I love it. This is great. I'm sorry, what is it that you do? Oh, I work for, such and such company, IBM or whatever. Really? How long have you been there? All of a sudden you're having a conversation. For those of you who are introverted, and introverts don't necessarily like limelight, on us, ask those questions of other people. People will ask those of you. People will respond in kind. But do this all the time. Schedule time with each contact. Make it a meaningful contact and conversation, productive time. Be prepared, know what you're going to ask, and I'll tell you, we'll walk through this whole scenario, this marketing plan. Track your results. Get an Excel spreadsheet, folks. This is like sales calls. If you've ever been in sales, you're talking to customers, you're following up, any emails that you might send or follow-up that you need to use, schedule it. The same thing. This is just a sales job. You're trying to sell somebody and the product happens to be you. So find out who you talk to, when do you need to call them again, what was the outcome of that? Did they refer you to someone? Make sure you thank them for the referral. If they didn't, and by the way, there are going to be some people who are going to go, yeah, I'm sorry, what is your name? Jennifer. Jennifer also, Jennifer Square. There's all of you? The Jennifer Club, this is awesome. But I might call Jennifer, and she doesn't know me from Adam, but I'm getting her feedback. And I said, Jennifer, would you mind making an introduction? And she'll go, I prefer not to. Respect that. Because people don't know you. People don't necessarily want to put their name at risk. There's a lot of other dynamics that go on. Jennifer, I totally respect that. I want to thank you so much for your time and move on. Okay? But don't hold it against it. Don't make it awkward or weird. Just thank them respectfully and move on. Not everybody's going to be that advocate for you. Developing your marketing plan. So this is where this document that you have in front of you, and I imagine that the people on Zoom maybe have gotten it electronically, Pearl? It will be sent to them. Okay.
It will be sent to them after this. Yes, it'll be sent to them.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing that. So this is what it looks like for those of you out in Zoom. Looks like a resume, but it's not. It does have a professional, objective. What is it that you want to do? Because you want to give somebody a clue as to what is it that you're looking for. It does have a positioning statement, very much like your resume does. But the following part, the rest of the body, is nothing like a resume. Again, reserve your resumes for when you're actually in front of a job, in front of an interview, and that's the document you use. But this is what you're going to use for everybody else that's going to hopefully give you leads. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for leads. We're looking for connections. We're looking for more people to be looking for jobs for us rather than us doing it all alone. And by the way, this is one thing that will not work. Make a note of this. If you call somebody, Jennifer, if you call somebody and say, oh, that's terrific, you just got a job at Amazon. If you hear of anything, would you let me know? We are not your recruiters. We have jobs, we have responsibilities. And people think that just because you happen to land at SAS, if you hear of anything, keep an eye out for, jobs that you think I might. No, we're not your recruiter. That does not work. That's an imposition on people, and it does not work. Unless your family, right? Your brother-in-law, yeah. Hey, Edward, come on, bud. If you hear something, let me know. And then Edward's got a little bit more of a responsibility to make sure his family is employed, right? But friends and colleagues, it doesn't work. So keep that in mind. So what's next after your positioning statement? This is where your competencies, your natural talents. Yes, can you use the stuff that you're really good at because of your education or because of your profession? Absolutely. But these are the things that you're naturally good at, translated into business value terms, if you will. right? And you can put headers on it, or you can not, you can eliminate the headers, whatever works for you. But you want to talk about what is really, are you really good at? And this is again, it has nothing to do with your education, or it could be one of two areas. You need to, what is your target market? Are you looking for a particular Raleigh area? You don't want to go to Cary. Cary is like, oh my God, that's a world away. But you might want to be restricted because of family responsibilities, kids' schools, things like that. You might be limited to say, I really don't want to travel within more than 25 miles outside of my home region. So figure out what that is. If you're nowadays, with so many of us working from home, sometimes distance doesn't make a difference. But in some cases, it might. If you have to go into the office, you want to know that. What are the target industries? Some of you are looking to pivot your careers, to redirect your careers. Are you redirecting them in the same field, or are you trying to get out of the field? I can't tell you how many of my colleagues have left the technology industry and have gone into starting their own artificial intelligence business, going into real estate. I have another one that started a wellness health organization company. So people are leaving the traditional roles that they've had in the past and are redirecting to something they're more passionate about. So this is not uncommon. And by the way, your employers know this. Your employers know that people are shifting. So the fact that you have a 10-year block of empty space on your resume, or the fact that, gee, I've been at this company for about 10 years and I'm thinking I'm needing a change. People know this, and they're more accepting of people transitioning and changing jobs and careers and fields now than there were 15 years ago. 15 years ago, oh my God, why are you leaving? You've been in the company for 10 years and you're leaving? Why? Oh my God, that's not a good thing. Or the fact that we were changing every year. Some of us were changing jobs every 2 or 3 years. Why are you doing that? Oh, that's a risk. So that's not the case today. The size of organization, I'm really good at the 5 billion or less revenue company. Now, I work for Dell, Lenovo, and SAS, but inside of those companies were $5 billion or less departments, business units that I either grew or developed or started. So my comfort zone is those startups inside of major companies who have all the financing and all the resources and everything else. Other people are really good at the startup, phases where there is no net. I kind of like the net. But whatever your size of company is, there's pros and cons. If you go with a $5 billion, or less revenue company, your ability to increase your titles and call your salaries and everything else is much, much different than if you're working for Hewlett Packard or an IBM, who's this, iconic elephant. It's harder to shift that kind of a company and make an impact in it versus, maybe a startup company. What is the, do you want to, small, medium, corporate? Again, what kind of company do you want to go to work for? Big financial institution? Do you want to look at a big campus like this? I loved working at big campuses like SAS, but that's not for everybody. Here's your research. List the companies you ideally want to go work for. This is a research. By the way, if you're not pinned into like Squawk Box, which is the CNBC financial news, starts like at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's the background for me for the last umpteen years. I know every company that's making a shift, who's buying who. Like, for example, sports related, but the Lakers just got sold to the Dodgers. So which companies are buying who. There's always a portion that's on the medical field or pharmaceutical field or biofield. There's always these specialists who go, oh, this is the up and coming new company. So find out who those companies are, because if they're up and coming, they have job opportunities. If they are shifting because maybe their stock isn't growing, there's opportunity there because you can maybe make a difference. So every company has to do that. Now, let's talk about how to use this. And let me make sure there's not another. So let's talk about how to use this. So let's see if I have it. mine handy. If not, that's okay. Here it is. So this is the way it works. So I called Jennifer up and I said, Jennifer, we haven't had coffee in a while. Would you mind joining me for coffee? Oh, sure, I'd love to have coffee. So we sit down and we have a little chit chat and whatever. And then I say, Jennifer, I've put together a marketing plan because I am pursuing my profession, expanding my career, however you want to position it, right? I'm looking for my next career opportunity. Would you mind taking a look at it and giving me some feedback? Rule number one, people will respond in kind. Nobody will say no. Oh, no, go, sure. Start looking at it. And one of the things, and you have to give them a couple of minutes to look at it because they don't know you. These are people that probably don't know your work side of you. They might know you from the soccer fields. They might know you from, Bunko Club or whatever other club meetings that we go to or yoga, but they may not know you from a work perspective. So this is their first opportunity that they get to see you. And Melinda, they're going to go, oh, wow, I didn't know that you had that, communications or lab design experience. You have lab design experience? Really? Wow, that's interesting. And it goes on and on. Then they get to the competencies phase. And Melinda, I had no idea. Wow, this is really terrific. Wow, you've done planning. Oh, gee, because they're just learning about the work side of you, right? And then they go through the target market and everything else. And eventually they'll find themselves to the last page, which is the list of companies. Here are the 3 questions you want to ask. Question number 1, Edward, now that you see my list of companies, is there any company that I've missed? Any company that I should be looking at? This is how I found Lenovo. Lenovo was not on my list. I go, oh, Lenovo, oh, okay, well, yeah, add them in, right? The second question you're going to ask is, Jennifer, are there any companies on my list that shouldn't be on my list? Citrix, Cisco, any of those companies, name of those companies, they're hard. Sometimes they churn and turn their employees or whatever they might want to say. It's not that you take them off the list, but going in what that culture is like or what people think about that, okay? The third question is the most important question you're going to ask. Melinda, do you know anyone at these companies that you feel comfortable introducing me to? That's the $50,000 question. Do you know anyone at these companies, Cheryl, that you would feel comfortable making an introduction for me? Yeah, this is the part where some people are going to go, yeah. Very small percentage of people are going to hesitate because they just don't want to get involved or whatever. Go, no problem. I totally respect that. Thank you very much for your time and your feedback. But other people will go, and this is how I got Lenovo. This is how I got SAS. This is how I got Dell. Other people will go, oh, I know somebody at Lenovo. They just started there. Really? Would you mind making an introduction? I'd be so appreciative. Yeah, sure. I'll type them an email and make an introduction for you too. Now you've got a contact. Where's your spreadsheet? Because that person just gave you a lead. Now you've got a lead. Now you can connect with them on LinkedIn. I met Jennifer the other day. She was lovely enough to make an introduction. Could you and I have 5 minutes? Could you and I spend 5 minutes to understand what your company is doing today? That's how you get contacts at different companies. And that's how you get to accelerating more people looking for jobs for you, looking for positions for you. I know I said the word job. It is not designed to be it doesn't require an engineering degree to use this kind of stuff. It's a very conversational. It's designed to be simple, conversational. Who do you know that I should know? Would you mind making the introductions? If you want to take it a step further, God, Jennifer, it sounds like you really know that person over at Lenovo. Would you mind sending my resume to them? I'll take it from there. Because what people don't want to do is they don't want to take the responsibility of, making sure that you get that job, making sure they don't want to take that responsibility. But if you wouldn't mind, if you feel comfortable enough, sending my resume, I'll take it from there. You're going to do all the hard work, right? This is the way that you cut down on some of the time of looking for it. Otherwise, what you're doing is you're doing 2 weeks of putting it online and waiting for somebody to call. And the way that things work nowadays is they go through algorithms, they go through word searches, and they'll start to tear apart resumes, and and so you want to eliminate that to the best that you can, and try to get your resume handheld by somebody to somebody within that company. That's really the ultimate goal, and that's how you will begin to accelerate getting more interviews. Okay, questions? Anybody from Zoom?
Yes, we had one on Zoom. How does going back to school for advanced degrees affect your current search for jobs? How do you leverage past experience with what you're going to school for?
So going back to school should not affect looking for careers, but again, you have to own it. Go back to my previous statement where I said, if you have taken time, say, I chose to go back to school to advance my education so I can be a greater benefit to my future employer. One of the things, whatever it is that you decide to do, Pearl, make sure that the benefactor is not you, but the benefactor is your future employer. I chose to get smarter about artificial intelligence. I chose to take more classes on lab design so that I can be a greater benefit to my future employer. Your role is not to get a career. Your role is to become so beneficial that you're really going to promote the growth and the wealth of the company that you're going to work for next. It's not about me getting a job. It's about how can I help you grow your company? How can you leverage my skills and my experience so that you can grow the wealth of your company? So education, yes, you can always combine your education and your work experience, but one of the towering things is that people will look at you and they say, how will you be a fit in this culture? And one of the things that they'll look at is what is your naturally strengths. By the way, if you want to be have a competitive edge, when you go through the strengths assessment, they have 3 documents it spits out. One of them is your 5 themes. The other one is one that's a little bit more of a narrative. So it's like a 1-pager, but it's got more narrative about what each theme was. And then there's a 30-page report that was spit out. That 1 page that has a longer narrative that says, exceptional at, whatever your themes are, that I attach that to my resume. When I apply, 1, you're in a competitive environment. You're competing against other people who are looking to the same company, and that is one way to differentiate yourself. Put something on there that nobody else has. Hey, these are my dominant strengths. Because what employers do is they'll look at that and they go, oh, what is your name? Jenny. I could not have planned this any better. Susan, you planned this. This is so funny. So this is great. So, Jenny, what I'm going to look at is, are you a fit within the culture of my company? And by the way, every company our culture is very different. Our culture is very unique. SAS said, that's like, are you kidding me? Talk to Dell. They said their culture was very different. But they'll look at that and they'll look at your towering strengths and they go, oh my God, she'd be a great fit in facilitating executive meetings or negotiating. That's one of her dominant strengths. She'll be great at that. And so sometimes we look at that and go, oh, Jenny, you might not be the right fit for the job you're applying for, but you're going to be a great fit for these other positions. And we don't always know what other positions because we're kind of narrow when we focus on our search. And so this way, people are then looking at you. That's what they did with me at SAS. I went in and applied for a career in alliance management. And they go, you're probably not the right fit for that. Hey, my colleague is starting a channel sales organization. You'd be perfect for that. And that's how so I didn't go looking for that position. I went looking for this one. But through these kind of documents and these kind of dialogues, you end up in another department. Yes, ma'am.
That you mentioned putting.
It's part of the reports. When you do your strengths finder, there are three reports. One is just your 5 themes, and the second one is a more narrative description of your 5 strengths. And then the third one is a 30-page report, which tells you what kind of position you should go after, that kind of stuff. But that narrative that describes what those themes are, that I attach that to my resume.
And we can share the link to that along with a copy of this document in a follow-up from the meeting for folks.
Yeah. How am I doing on time? About 10 more minutes? Yeah, go ahead.
My name's Leslie.
Hi,
Scott Jennifer.
Leslie, yay!
I like your idea about attaching the strengths to your application, but now with everything being automated with the ATS system, is a real person going to read that? Because I heard that sometimes even with the resume, they scan it in about 20 to 30 seconds. So I just wonder your take on that, if a human would look at it or not.
Yeah, there's a couple of challenges. One is everything that is done online, but when you actually get the interview, bring your resume with you and attach that document to the front of it. Okay, so if you have the opportunity to upload multiple documents, your resume is one, your cover letter, right? Make this a part of it, and see if you can upload it. If you can't upload it for some reason, make sure I literally attach it to the front of my resume and say, here you are. Yeah, it could be.
It's just more words for the system to scan, so it's more likely that you'll hit some of the ones that
Right.
they're looking for anyway.
Yeah, and we all know that we need to modify our resumes to the position that we're applying, and we need to have some of those words, whatever the job description is, look at the job description and make sure you bring some of those words into your resume or into your marketing plan, because that's what they're looking for and that's what they're looking to match. Okay. Other questions? Yes.
Got one right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My name's John, but you can call me Jennifer. Thanks, Susan. Susan told me to say that. Anyway, this looks like a really flexible document where you could change that software, hardware, and services to biotech, manufacturing, like really flexible. So that's wonderful. Should job seekers be willing to have the people they connect them on LinkedIn? You're comfortable LinkedIn or email, are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And again, beef up your LinkedIn activity, guys. If you're in the search process of your journey and you haven't posted anything in the last 5 days or 10 days, you need to ramp that up, because that's where recruiters go to. They go to look at your profile. They look at what are you posting, right? Are you posting something about your profession? Right? Interest, things that are of interest. Are you posting things that are relevant to the world today? Artificial intelligence, making a huge thing in healthcare. I mean, whatever it is, make sure you post something. Did you have someone? Yes.
Yes, my name is Tracy, not Jennifer, sadly. I am a federally funded social science researcher, and I love your thought about kind of owning choices. I was wondering if you had any advice specifically for folks who may be pivoting due to uncertainty in federal funding and the current environment.
This is a really interesting time, and these are things that are out of our control. So it's one thing if you're laid off, corporate lays you off, right? It's another thing if that happens in the government space. And there's two challenges in the government space. Number one, sometimes, and I'm going to get ahead of myself because salary negotiations is my next big topic that I love to talk about. And in government, it's a little harder because sometimes they post what the salaries are and there's no flexibility there. But in this particular case, remember, everybody is aware of the current events. Everybody knows what the downsizing is of certain industries, right? Retail might be going into that in the near future, right? Everybody knows what is happening in the government space. So it's not a secret. So you could start off by saying, as you're fully aware, the government experiencing an unprecedented downsizing. And start from there. There's no hiding it, and there's no shame in it, because these are things that are out of our control. When the market crashes, and we've all been there, and we've all had to look for another opportunity during really hard economic time, it's like everybody knows it. So I wouldn't hesitate, to search and bring that up. Say, yeah, it's unfortunate, but we have an unprecedented downsizing occurring in a sector that never sees this kinds of activity, right? Which is a government space. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Mital. I have a question. What's your thoughts on using a one-page Canva?
A one-page?
A one-pager, like a Canva, that kind of shows a little bit about yourself and your achievements as like a quick one-page document when you're networking?
I think for networking, that's okay. That's okay. But you bring up another important question about how long should your resume be? You know, nobody cares what you did when you got out of college. I mean, they really don't. They want to know what business impact you've created in the last maybe 10 years, maybe the last 5 years. So if you have a resume that's 30 pages long, nobody's going to read it, number one. Number two, you're missing the opportunity to present to them your true value in the first page. Could it be 2 pages? Yeah, it could be 2 pages. I think mine was 2 pages. But if you're looking at a resume that's got, 5 pages, it's too long. And you're unable, that shows me that you're not able to quantify and articulate the true business value that you've had in these organizations because of your skill set. But yeah, a 1-page profile page for networking, sure. Please.
Hi, Hannah. Nice to meet you. Thank you for everything. For a lot of the folks who are affected by like federal or public sector or nonprofit funding changes, I really like how you're hitting on like what is your value contribution to whatever your future career or employer is. The metrics that like federal government or nonprofits use to talk about like their contribution are kind of different, right, than the business metrics that industry uses.
Mm-hmm.
How would you recommend folks who are transitioning into industry from maybe a different skill set?
Yeah, so
do that?
nonprofits, so find out what the metrics are in your nonprofit. It could be, in some cases, it's number of people that have come through an organization, right? If you're a nonprofit and you're helping take the Women's Center in Raleigh, how many women have come through that the organization has helped? And when you're talking about contributions, it's a little weird because what companies want to know is what contributions did you make, but in some instances, you can't pinpoint it to just one activity that I made. It's what we did as a team or as an organization or as a nonprofit, entity. So sometimes you have to broaden it. And I know to some people that's going to go, what, am I lying about that? No, but you're part of a team, right? So sometimes you have to look at the broader contributions made and use those in your resume. You can even say that so that you don't feel uncomfortable that you might be fibbing. You can say collectively, we contributed to, the ecology and, keeping the planet healthy or keeping, Lake Tahoe blue by raising this amount of funds or whatever the other metrics are. But yeah, you can always use that and just do it collectively.
Melinda, I've got 2 questions. One is, what if it's, times are tough right now and you really need to find something to support your family, whether it be part-time, full, whatever, and how do you craft that with your, career search? And then the other one is whenever you have a certain situation where someone has a visa problems and, they have to make those decisions. And, how do you have any suggestions about how that person could maybe deal with the uncertainty?
Okay, go back to your first question first, Melinda.
I mean, basically, you can't wait around, you're laid off, whatever, and you need something.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of like craft that? Do you put it on your resume or do you just leave it off? Things like that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you real quick, I'll answer that question first because this is a true story. So one of my colleagues that worked for me, her cousin had moved here from Rhode Island with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Transfer her daughters and herself down to Raleigh. 3 months after she landed here with Blue Cross Blue Shield, laid her off. And it's like, okay, I just got a condo. I got 2 daughters going ready to go to high school. I got a car that's kind of breaking down. I'm going to go find whatever job I can get. And she went and got whatever job she can get, making probably 25% of what she made, as a full-time Blue Cross Blue Shield employee. So she did this for a year. And she's one of my first people that I said, well, let's get you back on track. And we did this kind of thing. We did the marketing plan. She found a job. that paid her twice as much as what she made in Blue Cross Blue Shield. Wonderful story. But we didn't address that. We didn't address that. You can always say, I chose to take the time to take care of my daughters. Once you own it, it's your decision to make it. Really, nobody can question it. So if you don't put it on your resume that you did this in the interim, it's number one, it's nobody's business, but you just have to be able to be prepared to address that time and own the decision, and I think you'll be fine. Work visas are interesting. Here in the Raleigh and the RTP area, our congressmen are really, I know because we did this a lot at SAS and at Lenovo, our congressmen are really helpful at helping companies secure the visas for employees who have certain skill set. So sometimes companies will reach out to their congressman. I know our congressman for our district was at SAS like every week. We were calling on them all the time. So that's an avenue for companies to do it. But I got to tell you, companies right now are a little hesitant of making those investments. There is a cost associated with it. There's also a political risk associated with some of those things. And I think companies are rethinking. But congressmen should be real helpful. Okay, yes, please. Hi.
Hey,
It's Emma, right?
yeah, Emma, thank you so much. So I actually had a question about entry-level professionals. So for those of us who have just recently exited, say, grad school and have developed some skill or starting to develop skills, but haven't created an impact on the industry in any kind of large way yet, and also are looking to establish a network, but don't really have one outside of their previous schooling experiences, what do you recommend in terms of things that you can show on your resume to show maybe potential, and also how to develop a network and establish it kind of from not really starting anywhere?
So network will take a little bit longer to talk about. And if you stay afterwards, Emma, we can talk a little bit about that. But for college graduating students, where you don't have the work experience, what you have to do is look at what you do have, and I don't want to say embellish it, but translate it into business value. I'll give you an example, because I just work with a couple of fellows, young men, who are just graduating out of NC State. What do you do when you're in college? What do you work? Well, sometimes you work at Whole Foods, right? Doing inventory, stocking inventory, maybe cashiering, maybe you work at a bar as a bartenderess or something like that. So in this particular case, he was a cashier. That's what he did while paying for college. So I said, so what do you do? He says, well, I'm a cashier. I do the cashier thing. I said, is that really what you do? I said, I'll tell you what you do. You process hundreds, thousands of transactions per day, managing the influx of cash flow into the company. That's what you do. So whatever it is that you've done, let's translate that into business value. You stock inventory at Trader Joe's. Is that really what you do? No, you manage and control the inventory, and you make it available for customers to purchase so that you can move that inventory ratio. Right? I could do a really good ones on, and I'm like winging it here, guys, but this is the kind of stuff that you want to do, is look at it and look at the true value. Networking, start wherever you can. There's all kinds of associations that you can go to that are free, especially for young professionals. They don't even charge membership fees in some associations. So look for associations. They're always looking for newcomers. Find a topic you're really, really good at and go build a presentation, and then go farm it out to an association. People get to know you really quick if you get on the speaking circuit. Talk about anything. Talk about, artificial intelligence. Talk about how to design a lab. What are the downfalls, the pitfalls of designing a lab poorly? What can you do to mitigate?
Working on right now.
Yeah, and then go shop it around. Go see if anybody's interested in hearing you talk about this. That is a great way to get you known very, very quickly. record everything, take pictures, put it on LinkedIn. I'm like this event. I'm so excited to be with all of you today. It'll go on LinkedIn. So that's one way to promote yourself. There's two other topics that I love to talk about. One about salary negotiations, because your base salary is the most important thing that you can do. And I hope that maybe Susan will have a session about this again. Pearl, do you have another question?
Yes, we have another question. I was just going to do a plug for Triangle Biotech Tuesdays. It's a great networking event that don't require membership.
Hi, this is actually kind of a silly question. My name is Elin O'Neill, and I've been a research scientist at Duke for years. And what that means is that I've funded my own research, so I write my own grants and things like that. So I haven't interviewed for a job in a long time. So I don't know how to do that. Are there resources that teach you how to interact in a personal interview? Because everything I've ever done has been written.
Right. Susan, do you have programs like that?
Yeah, so we have had presentations on that topic that are on, if you go to the Career Development Network webpage on our website, you can see recordings that presenters have done on that topic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we also have on our website on the Careers in Training at NCBiotech, we do have common interview questions, things to think about, like the STAR method of providing the example of what you've done, that kind of stuff. But definitely feel free to reach out to Susan or me for any additional.
And if you want to practice that, find me on LinkedIn. I'm local, I'm happy to do that. I developed a mock interview program for a program called Dress for Success.
Yes.
And many of the companies here in the area create those mock interviews where you actually go in and actually interview with people from different companies. So I know SAS hosted it, Lenovo does, IBM does. We all of us companies here in the RTP area host those events for these ladies so that they have an opportunity to practice where it's not counted against them, and they get lots of great feedback. So it's just another option.
So we are at 2:00, but I know that this Nellie's advice on negotiations is really valuable. Do you think you could do like a 5 or 6 minute?
Real quick, anybody interested in salary negotiations? Okay, so there's two challenges. One, if you apply online, they're going to ask you, what's your salary requirements, right? Where's your requirement? Let me tell you, in my entire career, I have never given anybody my salary requirements. You can defer it. Online, if you do it online, if you have to, put a range. But here's the bottom line, and I want you guys to write this down, salary.com. The bottom line with people who aren't able to negotiate their salaries because they don't know what their job is worth. You need to go on salary.com, punch in the role that you're applying for, the geography, and I always do Raleigh, Charlotte, and because I live in Cary, I do Cary. I do at least 3 cities that are near me to get what that salary range is. And what you're looking at, because here's the challenge. If you give somebody a range and it's too high, you've just been discounted. You don't want to give anybody any reason to take you off the track. If you go too low and they have a budget, you're leaving money on the table. So there's no win-win situation, but sometimes you have to give them a range. Say from 50,000 to 75,000, and that range better come from salary.com because that's what the market bears. And the HR people know what the market pays. Jennifer?
But sometimes in these forms though, they won't let you put a range. You really have to write a number, the number of years. So what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, then take the median, only you know what salary you need to make. But if you don't know what it's worth to begin with, right? So take your median range perhaps, and then add or subtract depending on what your financial requirements are to live and get by, and maybe that's what you have to do, right? But if you get into SAS asked me 6 times, what's your salary requirements? What's your salary requirements? Here's how to deflect it. I'm sorry, what is your name? Christy. Here's how you deflect it. Christy, why don't we get through the interview process and see if we're a right match? I think we are. And then I think we can come up with a number that works for both of us. Okay, the key thing about salary negotiations is not an us versus them, it's a we. Edward, you and I, why don't we work together and come up with the right number. It is a teaming effort. You do not want to make that. This is one of the reasons why companies have HR people do all the negotiating so that the hiring manager is not at odds with you as you're trying to get more money. And remember, HR's job is to hire the best talent at the least amount of money. So they're not your friend, but you're going to make them your team member when we're collaborating and figuring out what the right number is. So defer it as much as you can. I did with SAS. SAS came back and made an offer. I said, okay, I'll take it under consideration. I never say thank you. I've earned it. I've earned my seat at the table. I never say, oh God, thank you so much for that offer. That's just so awesome. I say, that's great. I'll take it under consideration and I'll get back to you. They didn't like the tone of my voice, so they went back and offered me more. When I was at Dell, salary negotiations, people, the reason your base salary is so important, everything that's on top of it is a percentage of that. Your performance reviews, your commissions, your bonuses, everything is a percentage. So a percentage of 0 versus a percentage of 75,000 is a big difference, right? That's why that base salary is so critical important. Dell came to me and said, we'd like to make you an offer, but we're not going to negotiate. I said, okay. I said, well, then, Jennifer, I said, let me tell you what I've told the other 3 companies that I'm interviewing with. Make your best offer and have it to me by Wednesday at 5 p.m. FedEx at my mother's house because I'm visiting there, because I'm not coming back to negotiate. But you got to have the strength. You got to have multiple offers. You got to know what that position is worth. And that's the challenge that I find with most salary negotiations is that you don't even know what the salary is worth. You know, and if they have a budget, you can always go back and say, well, what's your budget? Yeah. They won't tell you that either. Final thoughts, comments. Let me tell you one more thing that's on the board. I have printed, if you are in between careers and you're not employed at the moment, you don't have a business card, go get business cards from Vistaprint. They'll print them, 250 of them for free. But what I did, if you'll see at the very top of it, I actually wrote down what I'm highly skilled at. Who am I? I'm a highly qualified seasoned sales professional. And I put that right on my business card so that when I am presenting it and I'm networking, people know who I am and what value am I bringing to the table. Emma, did you have a final thought?
It was just regarding salary negotiations, if a position is giving you a lower range than what the position is actually worth in your area, how do you tackle?
Oh, you negotiate the heck out of it because there's nothing saying that you can't negotiate. Now, there's 3 areas you can negotiate. You can negotiate, and very few companies are doing the second one, but the first one is keep negotiating on your salary. I just did this with a young man who was coming out of college, who was offered $45,000. I said, go back, do your salary.com research, know what it's worth. And he came back and he said, the market right now bears, 55. How can we get closer to that? How can we get closer to that? Right? They know what the market pays. These HR people are, they've been out there, they know what it is. But the second part of it is, and for some of you who are more seasoned, who have a lot of experience in you, signing bonuses, you have to understand the accounting of how things work. If you pay somebody a salary, that's an every week, every month, it's an ongoing expense to the company. But if you ask for a signing bonus, it's a one-time fee and it comes out of a different budget. So I understand that you have a limited budget for this position. Could you and I work on a signing bonus to bridge the gap, in this first year? The third thing you can negotiate for, a couple more things, you can negotiate for vacation pay. Oh, you only allow 2 weeks? I'll tell you what, your salary is under the market. Why don't we negotiate? Why don't we work together and see if we can get 3 weeks of vacation instead of 2 weeks? Another area you can negotiate is work from home. And another one you can negotiate is training. For those of you who are young, to have them pay for your ongoing training to get your skills continuing up there. Just make sure all of that, whatever you agree, is in that offer letter. Because if it's not in that offer letter, it's not going to happen. So salary negotiations are huge. I have some ways to defer the conversations if anybody's interested. The other conversation is once you get to a position, we've all heard, oh, it's all about who you know when it comes to promotions and everything else. I'm here to tell you it's not. It's about who knows you. So I can spend a whole lot of time talking about how to promote yourself once you get into a position, because it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you and how to promote yourself without sounding egotistical, because that never works. Folks, I'm going to let you have your afternoon. Thank you so much for being gracious and allowing me this time. I appreciate it. Thank you.